with the news. Um, so over the weekend, I kind of will let you guys know that um, today was going to be a day to look out for in the marketplace because um, with Jerome Powell speaking today and just with several other things that we were needing to happen in the market today, um, I was just really wanting you guys to be pretty vigilant, especially when it came to cryptocurrency and then also when it came to US dollar pairs and indices. So um, we did get a lot of volatility in the market today. There was an expectation of the market earlier this morning that we were going to get a stimulus package, especially since Nancy Pelosi had mentioned and had said that the White House pretty much has 48 hours to get a deal um, approved and in place. Otherwise, there's not going to be a stimulus package done or approved um, before the election. So that was going to be something really important to look out for today. Obviously, during market hours, we didn't get it, and the later that the market day went on, we just didn't hear anything. We weren't getting anything, and it pretty much seems like there's a stalemate. Just like it seems to be a stalemate between the EU and the UK right now with Brexit. Although Jerome Powell has said that he's willing to endure a hard Brexit. So we'll go ahead and share my screen. We'll talk about just a few of the things that have happened today. Um, some of the things that we talked about on either in the group chat or last week, kind of going into this week. So, let me do that real quick. Okay, so hopefully you guys are seeing my Forex Factory calendar. So we'll go ahead and get started with it. We're going to talk about everything that happened um, today moving forward. So this is one of those big items um, talking about Jerome Powell and cryptocurrency. Also, OPEC had meetings today talking about oil and oil production. One thing that you'll notice about the OPEC meeting is that you didn't even really hear much about it. Um, we did hear a little bit about it, but it didn't really move oil prices in the US all that greatly. It did move them, however, in the UK. Um, and as far as Jerome Powell is concerned, um, he did speak. He talked about the role of cryptocurrency in the US and the role of how the monetary policy is going to play into all of this. But one thing that was pretty interesting in all of it is just hearing the different speakers um, from the IMF earlier today, those who were pegged to be speakers, those who spoke on behalf of their countries like Malaysia, um, and just some of the other countries that were represented. It was interesting to hear their take on cryptocurrencies, where they thought cryptocurrency should go, and pretty much what a lot of the smaller countries are looking for is something to help a sense of substance to the larger currencies, to help give them a backbone, aka something very similar to the Bretton Woods system that was pretty much let go of in 1971. It was like August the 15th, 1971. And I feel like there are several dates that people who study and look at finance should know and remember. That's one of them because that was the day that we literally left a system of structure, going to a system that, led us into a free for all. You don't have everybody who has that same sentiment, but when you look at the amount of debt that a country is able to rack up, the amount of spending, the amount of printing a country is able to do that now without having to look to its reserves or the reserves of another country, or whatever, to ensure that that money is going to have some substance to it. So I think over time, especially considering the amount of people that are in the crypto market currently in the US, it's less than 10%. It's about anywhere from 6 to like 8.5% of the US population is actually using Bitcoin or any type of cryptocurrency. So the thing about trying to get someone to use something, especially something really new, is giving them more levels of exposure, um, giving them the same thing but in multiple ways to show them that it isn't bad. So to tell a person, hey, you should use this cryptocurrency, and they're like, well, I don't know what that is. I can't see my money. What if I can't get my money out? And you say, well, if something were to happen to the banking system, you probably wouldn't be able to get your money out of the bank anyway because the banks don't have enough money. That would make someone kind of second think and say, okay, well, maybe this isn't bad after all. Some people, it takes a little more convincing. Those people who are just now starting to use debit cards, and not write checks anymore, those are the people it's going to take a lot more convincing because they want things to be backed by something. They want to know who to go to if I have a problem or an issue. So that's why, at this point, the US has or is trying to get a central bank backed cryptocurrency so that people do have that level of security, um, when it comes to cryptos. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin was here first. There are dozens of financial institutions that have already invested in Bitcoin, um, and it's definitely not going away. It's set the standard, and it's going to continue to set the standard for cryptos. So anyway, moving forward or moving on, with the news of the day, because we're going to be coming back to the speech that happened today. It's going to keep popping up, especially the more and more that we hear our government talk about cryptocurrencies and the progress of our currency. It's just going to keep coming up. So I'm not going to stay on that a whole lot longer. We're waiting for the minutes from the last policy or monetary meeting, um, from the Australian government about their dollar and about rates, how they plan to move forward, how they plan to um, kind of mitigate and balance out the risk of coronavirus. Um, so we'll be hearing from them, or those minutes will be released in about 4 minutes. Tomorrow, there isn't a whole lot of strong news that's coming out. We do have a couple of Fed speakers talking tomorrow. Um, we have housing news, some building permit news coming out tomorrow. We are looking forward to a stimulus package deal, hopefully. Um, if we don't get that, expect the markets to really have a strong reaction. The markets had a strong reaction towards the end of the market day today when we didn't have a trade, when we didn't have a stimulus deal. And then also, there are several countries around the world now who are starting to reverse a lot of um, the opening of their country because of COVID. The number of cases are rising. The number of cases are rising significantly in Chicago and several other cities here in the United States. So it's definitely going to be something that we're going to be taking a look at. Again, we're going to be talking about the coronavirus. For a while, solely because we don't have a vaccine yet, and a lot of the vaccine trials are on hold. So, um, once vaccine trials start up again, once we have a vaccine, once we have some structure to how we're going to move forward, or a plan as to how we're going to move forward and deal with the coronavirus. Until then, um, the markets are going to be kind of emotional about the coronavirus, especially when you start talking about cases rising, um, and then the shifting of a lot of the healthcare staff that we saw in the forefront, that Pence had on his team. A lot of those people are being shifted around out to, um, anyway, they're being shifted around and taken out of their positions, or told that they can't talk to the media anymore. So a lot of that is really affecting the markets whenever it comes to the coronavirus. Wednesday, we have some GDP news. So we'll have the consumer price index for not only the GDP, but also the Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar also has their core retail sales and retail sales news coming out on Wednesday. And that news, since it's the only news coming out at that time, whenever it does, they'll probably compare it to the US news, since we just had that news come out last week. And um, USD CAD, if any of you look at that pair, will be affected for sure, because that's right before the market opens for both of those currencies. And that's a volatile time. Thursday, Thursday we have a lot of our, I don't want to call it typical news, but it's news that we come to expect every Thursday. Um, so unemployment claims for the U.S. is what I'm talking about. That's the news that we typically get um, every Thursday, along with natural gas storage. And um, in London session, we'll be getting a speech from the bank governor, and expect a lot of those talks to be about Ireland, to be about what's going to happen with the hard Brexit, what terms um, are they looking to have resolved, what issues could possibly be going forward without some type of resolution. So, because we've had a lot of these leaders speak um, recently, a lot of what they're going to be saying isn't entirely new. You just kind of have to go back and look for their previous speeches, their press conferences, to see what they said, um, to kind of know that it's not new. If you haven't, or if you don't know that it's something new and the news seems shocking to you, those are the types of things that move the market, because the market plays on the emotions of people who don't necessarily check the news, who don't necessarily keep notes on their charts or in a notebook about these things. So if you know that these things have already been said or have already happened, you're less likely to panic about it. Um, so expect the GBP to move slightly on Thursday morning, solely because there are going to be several people in the market who don't pay attention to the news and keep notes. And it's a high impact news item. Um, so this is at a summit that he'll be speaking at. I had to look to make sure that there weren't going to be any audience questions, but questions could potentially be asked from anyone who is attending the summit, not necessarily a lay person or just a regular citizen. It might be another government official or just another person at the summit who is authorized that could possibly ask questions. The UK is a lot different in how they structure their meetings compared to the US. So anything is possible, so to say, because they're a lot more friendly and open. And so is the EU. So just remember that whenever they have speeches. The US also has this leading index month over month coming out, and the New Zealand dollar has consumer price index quarter over quarter coming out on Thursday evening. Friday is one of those days where we get a lot of EU news, particularly from France, Germany, and the regular EU. Um, it's going to be services numbers, and it's also going to be manufacturing numbers. These numbers, as I've told you guys before, are the numbers we're looking at to see how well countries are doing post COVID. So we just really want to see how well are countries doing now compared to pre-COVID, and then when COVID was like at its worst earlier in the year. And then this is also going to help determine how a lot of these countries move forward in their planning and in their guidance. And then also just keep in mind that these are countries who have a debt obligation to the European Union. So the things that we hear about are also going to help us see how well or how efficiently and how quickly these countries are going to be able to pay back their debt to the European Union. So um, that's the news for the week. Just remember that we do have daylight savings time coming up for, if it hasn't already started well, let me go back. It has already started happening for several countries and several currency pairs already. We have the Swiss franc, EU, and the GBP. Um, their daylight savings time is coming up this weekend, and then we have daylight savings time coming up in a couple of weeks. So those are things to keep in mind because trading times change um, in October, um, early November. So just make sure that you're keeping up with daylight savings time so that, if you wake up at 3 o'clock, you're not looking and it's like, oh man, I've already missed an hour of London, or you woke up an hour early because, you know, time change. Make sure you go in. I recommend everyone having an app on your phone to help you see what the trading times are going to be. They'll send alerts to your phone, notifications. They'll even set an alarm for you to let you know when to wake up. I use one called FX Hours. And so whenever you open the app up, it will literally tell you if the market is open, if it's closed, and when it'll actually open up again, and gives you a timer to count down to the close. So find an app, find one that you love, find one that works with your phone, and use the notifications to your benefit there. If you choose FX Hours, it does have a forex calendar. It has forex tools. It has news. It does tell you about interest rates. It helps you to calculate pip values. It helps you to do conversions between currencies. So you get a lot of benefit out of a lot of these apps that tell you the time and help you out in that manner. So one of the things that I wanted to share and talk to you guys about, and I'm sure Mr. Levels is going to cover it, but it's something that's like really important. Um, when you guys are looking at charts and whenever you're determining pairs and stuff to look at, um, it's easy to say, I'm only going to trade GU or I'm only going to trade US 30. But it makes trading a lot easier when you know what pairs correlate with other pairs. So if you're looking at GU and you're like, oh, okay, GU is going to make this move. If you look at other GA pairs, especially pairs like GA, for instance, you don't have to trade it. But if you know the correlation between those pairs and you know that GA moves first and it always moves more aggressively, you know that if GA has started to sell and GU hasn't yet, then it's more than likely, highly plausible that GU is going to start selling. It might not sell off as hard, it might not sell off as aggressively, but it possibly sell off in the same way that GA just did. So follow these pairs and follow the correlations. That's why I asked in the group chat earlier today if anyone knew what pairs were correlating heavily right now. So if you look at the market right now, I will tell you Bitcoin indices, metals, the dollar, um, make sure I'm not forgetting one, but they're all correlating. So when the indices, especially the US 30 drops, if you go look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin pauses and turns around. If you go look at silver and gold are making very similar moves. And if you look at the dollar is making very similar moves. So that's very important, especially whenever you're trading, so that you don't have to do a lot of hard work. These correlating pairs do the work for you. So, um, like I said, it's not something that you have to trade. Um, just as long as you know something that's correlating with a pair or a sector that you're looking at. If you know that you can go to something and it can give you clues as to what could possibly happen, use that to your advantage and use that to your benefit, to save yourself some time, save yourself some heartache. And if you ever have any questions about a chart and you're not sure, go to your correlating pair. Um, it's going to take some time to study what happens first and if one's more aggressive than the other. But that's all a part of trading. And once you get it, once you know it, then that's going to help you to be a more effective trader. So that's all I have for you guys. I'm going to over to Mr. Level so that he can get started with the technicals. And if you guys have any questions, you can drop them in the group chat.